that, and then I repeat that? Probably.
We heard it.
Take two. Welcome, and I'd like to call to order the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting of Thursday, January 15th, 2026 at 7:02. We have one public hearing scheduled for this evening, so I want to take a few minutes first to review the process for public hearings in the current hybrid format of our meetings. During the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The applicant or staff will share all application materials on the screens as needed. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from the commissioners. Then there will be an opportunity for clarifying questions from attendees. For Zoom attendees, please raise your hand through the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. As this public hearing must be recorded, attendees will state their names and addresses before asking their questions. Next, those who wish to support the application may come forward, and then those who oppose the application may come forward. Again, it is necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. The applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. Once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the next day by calling the Land Use Department at 203-245-5631 after 9 a.m. All actions taken tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. And seated this evening are members Mike Bugda, Michelle Clark via Zoom, who's an alternate, Vice Chair John Duza, Secretary John Morgan, Bob, Janet Peckinpah, Andy Rubin, and myself, Carol Snow, Chair. Because we're missing a commissioner, we could seat Michelle Clark this evening.
Yes.
So Michelle, would you like to be seated this evening in place of Maxwell Caroon?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, great. Staff present this evening is Aaron Mannix, Town Planner. This meeting is live streamed on YouTube and will be made available on the town website for viewing. Additionally, I would like to ask that we treat each other respectfully throughout the meeting, and a reminder to please turn off your phones. The Town Planner will now read the legal notice for the application. Aaron?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Notice is hereby given that the Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, January 15th, 2026, beginning at 7 p.m. in Meeting Room A, the James Madison Room, Town Campus, 8 Campus Drive, Madison, Connecticut, 06443. This is a hybrid meeting, and attendees may also join via Zoom webinar through either the webinar link or call-in information below. The webinar ID is 915-8196-6735. The password is 452138. Dial-in number 646-558-8656. The following application will be heard: 25-28 Bushnell Lane, map 27, lot 87-3, zone R2. Owner applicant Linda H. Fast, re-subdivision application to legalize division of property from 1957. Copy of this application is available for inspection in the Land Use Office. Further details on how to participate in the webinar are posted on the Town of Madison website, www.madisonct.org. All written correspondence can be submitted to the Land Use Department via email, landuse@madisonct.org. Dial 203-245-5631 for assistance. Dated at Madison, Connecticut, this 22nd day of December, 2025, Carol Snow, Chair. This was published once in the New Haven Register on January 1st, 2026, and once in the Source on January 8th, 2026.
Thank you, Aaron. Could I have a motion then to open 25-28 Bushnell Lane application? A good second. All with honor. Any discussion in favor? The hearing is open, and I'd like to invite the applicant to the presentation.
Good evening. I'm attorney Ed Casella, 29 Elm Street, Old Saybrook, Connecticut. I'm representing the applicant on this application, which is a bit of a unique application, but I know these parcels have some history. with this commission, maybe not you folks, but prior commissions. Aaron, if you could bring up the Doan subdivision map and then my letter as well, we'll use those for the presentation.
Sure.
Michelle, can you hear everything okay? Great.
So the map that was provided to the commission is what is shown as the end result here that we're seeking for approval for. This is a piece of land that has been in existence as a parcel since 1957. And we are seeking confirmation from the Planning and Zoning Commission that this is a building lot by virtue of a subdivision, or in this instance, a re-subdivision. So we have a plan completed by Bob Doan that includes a zoning data table, it shows a house, septic system, driveway, well, everything that you would need to develop a piece of property. It's 44,000 square foot lot, where 40,000 square feet is required. Has a minimum dimension of a square, 120 by 120, and it has adequate room to have all the components of a lot that are needed. Okay, so that's the end result that we're trying to get to. But in order to get there, we have to review the history. So if you could pull up my letter, we can go through that. And there is a fairly clear history here as to what's happened. Why it happened, we don't know, but we know how we know from a title perspective how we got here. So this piece of land is on the south side of Bushnell Lane as it comes around, and was supposed to join up to Hamilton Drive in previous iterations. So if you can go down, I want to look at the maps. And this is the area that is the subject of a number of divisions that were done in the 1950s after your subdivision regulations came into effect. And it impacts not only this property, but other properties that are owned and that have houses built on it. So this is taken from the assessor map. So this is the way the assessor views all the divisions of land, which is entirely consistent with what we're asking you to ultimately approve. So the top piece, subject parcel 2787-3 is the lot that we're seeking approval for from a subdivision perspective. And then there are two houses below, 30 and 32 Bushnell, which have been improved with houses. Then there's another piece, map 2787-2, which is a parcel that is not approved as a building lot. And that is substandard because that's only a sixth of an acre. Sixth of an acre is less than 40,000 square feet. And then on the far south is 46 Hamilton Drive. So that's the baseline. So if you can flip to the next map. So in 1950, this is the piece of property that was owned by Clinton Thies and conveyed to Arthur Williams. And if you remember the configuration, up top is where our piece is, and then it goes all the way down below to Hamilton Drive. And here, as I was discussing, was a proposal for Hamilton Drive to connect all the way to the south. So next one. This is off, but the first cut was the southernmost piece. So 1950 something, I have the date here somewhere, 1954, there was a first cut of land that became known as, this is the parcel that's now 46 Hamilton Drive. So that was done, a map was recorded, no subdivision was required because that was the first cut. So that one's gone and outside the picture. So what was left over was, and try to orient it all the way around there. What was left over were, keep going up a little bit. Yeah. What was left over was a little bit more than what's shown on this map. Okay. And Arthur Williams, who owned the property, next conveyed without subdivision approval the southern piece here, the David C. Montgomery piece. That was immediately north of Hamilton Drive. He conveyed that in 1954, leaving him with these two pieces of land. Again, this was done without subdivision. So then in 1957, he takes his house lot, parcel A, and divides off parcel B. So our lot that we're seeking approval for was first established without subdivision approval in 1957, when parcel A and arguably the Montgomery piece were divided so that parcel B became its own parcel. The Montgomery piece came back to Williams in 1959. Okay, so that after the 57 split, it came back to Williams. So this piece ultimately was owned by Williams until he passed away in 1986. Next. So then parcel B is already created. Parcel A gets split into two lots without subdivision approval. So now we have the free split done, that's gone. And so we're left with the southern Montgomery piece, our piece, parcel B, and then two more pieces without any subdivision approval. The original homestead, you can see, was on parcel A1, which I believe is 30 Bushnell. And then a new house was constructed on parcel A2. So those parcels have been in existence and occupied as houses since that time. And that leads us, frankly, to where we are now. We are seeking approval for parcel B as it existed in 1957, as it still exists today, and as it complies with the zoning regulations. Didn't always comply with the zoning regulations. 5-6 years ago, the old regulations didn't allow new lots to be built on private streets, but the regulations were amended to allow it. So 5-6 years ago, it wasn't permittable, but today it is. So if you go back to the 1957 map 908, up the other way.
This one, sorry.
This one, yeah. This is basically what we're asking the commission to do. Because this was the first, the next cut, which is create parcel B from the original homestead, which was parcel A. That's the subdivision at its core. And again, our position is parcel B today, you're approving this today, we understand, but it meets the regulations today. I'm not going back and arguing in 1957, the regulations only required 26,000 square feet, and it meets everything today. So that's how you have the ability to do that. Two other points. Number one, your subdivision regulations require open space. We're requesting a waiver. I have a written waiver for waiver of open space provision, which is section 3.11. Section 14 of your subdivision regulation allows for waiver of certain sections. Section 3.11 is one of them. So under your regulations, it requires that open space be provided no less than 10% of the lot. But waivers are available if there's conditions affecting the parcel that don't generally affect other parcels in the area. So, in support of this, what we're basically saying is there's no good room for open space on this. There's no passive recreation available. 10% is 4,300 square feet if you're looking at this parcel. That's a very small amount. The parcel A, which was the larger parcel, was divided illegally, still is illegal, both parcels, without the benefit of any open spaces, and those have houses on them. they, in my opinion, they shouldn't be subject to open space requirement during this application. And, one of the big factors here, when you look at this from a fairness perspective, parcel B, the subject lot, has been paying taxes as though it's building lot, at least for the past 5 years, what I can see online. So right now it's assessed fair market value at $466,000. So it's a $7,000 tax bill. So if you were considering, well, maybe a fee in lieu, they've been paying taxes. They've been paying taxes, $7,000, $6,800, $7,300 this year, going back years. So, all those considerations are why we believe a waiver of the open space for this parcel, which has existed in the same configuration since 1957, is something that the commission could approve. And so we're asking for a waiver of the open space based upon that. So that's essentially the background in the presentation for why we're asking for parcel B simply to be approved as a building lot. Right now it's a parcel, to have it be approved as a building lot. So I appreciate your attention.
Thank you. I thought you said this was clear.
It is to me.
Erin, I was wondering if you could pull up the site plan and show us the zoning regulations that are met for everyone to see. In the meantime, does anyone have any last questions from this presentation so far?
Well, regarding the 2019 change, who requested that?
I believe it was the owner of the parcel. Yeah, 'cause I think they went in and tried to argue. They hired an attorney at that point in time, this was pre-COVID. And they tried to argue, like a grandfathering almost, I forget specifically. And the commission said no, so they had to come in and update the regs.
That was in 2018 or 2017, 2018. For the actual amendment, it was, I believe, the commission initiated. With
Okay.
the director of.
Yeah, the previous
at the
town
time.
planner and discussion,
Yeah.
and then I believe there was a public hearing about it.
In the minutes of the public hearing, I don't believe there was a private applicant.
Okay.
That public hearing was May 16th, 2019.
Yes.
Carol, I do have a question. John Morgan. Why don't we have to look at this whole lots, parcel A, A plus B, the other two lots that were never subdivided? Shouldn't that all be in the subdivision request?
It could be, but if the A to A1 came after us, so we wouldn't be asking for that. If these folks wanted to ask for their houses to be legalized, that would be in my opinion, a separate application. The most you could ask for is to look at A to B, the big picture,
Why is that?
because that was the division done in 1957. That was done first.
Historically.
Historically, correct. We're basically asking for ratification of something that was done in 1957. And we don't have their consent for this,
They would have to join in.
is my understanding, based upon the letters that are submitted in the file.
And are you calling this a subdivision or a resub?
I think it's technically, we went back and forth on this.
Yeah.
When the Montgomery piece went out, that was the first piece. And because this went out after, I think the conservative approach is to call it a re-subdivision and ask for a public hearing. I could argue because it came back in, it was merged, maybe not, but during discussions with Aaron and Carrie Olson, he took the position because it was after that division, it was a re-subdivision.
So there's four properties, there, 4 parcels. 3 of them have homes on them and paying full property taxes. And one B, what you're looking for is just paying taxes on the land itself, but all four are not legal, or B is, A is legal.
No,
It's not
the only one that's legal is Hamilton
Hamilton
Drive,
Drive.
the one on the far south.
Okay. Yes, that abuts Hamilton.
The parcel immediately to the north of that, which is owned by the same people who own this, because those in their family, that's not a legal lot. Then A and A1 were never approved as divided lots. There was no subdivision approval for them. So of the three houses, one is legal, free split, two are not. Of the two vacant parcels, one is eligible, our property is eligible because it meets zoning. The other property is not, without variances or something. Change the regulations.
footage.
It doesn't have the square footage.
But those people, whether those people, again, they're paying taxes, they have been for a long time with those property, it's just not necessarily their fault, but these were never deemed as, okay. I
Correct.
just want to make sure. And
Yeah, this
obviously it didn't come up when they purchased the property and all that stuff, so.
clearly things were missed over the years, especially when the two properties, the two houses to the south were sold or conveyed.
The division, though, was recorded through probate with deeds, as I understand it, and I think you shared, or we've seen on file all the history of those different.
Yep, these are all separate parcels of land on the land records.
And it's my understanding that that's how the town determines the lots and whether they're buildable or not, and then how they tax, or how, I mean, this parcel that is the subject of tonight's application has been paying property taxes as a buildable lot. Is
Right,
that right?
that's right.
Even though there was no zoning involved,
Even though there was no subdivision.
subdivision,
approved.
right?
Although it meets almost all of the requirements.
It means all the.
All of them, yeah. Yeah, that's what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Do you want me to zoom in on the chart larger for you?
Yeah, maybe
Can you
just over the
just say-
in case get a chance.
So what are we actually re-subdividing?
That's right, it's not that.
Yeah.
Parcel B,
Parcel B.
that's what I'm asking for.
But when was it sub?
It wasn't
wasn't,
subdivided.
So how could we approve a re?
It was divided in 1957,
But never approved.
but never approved.
So it-
Well,
whether
never
it's-
even applied.
Whether it's subdivision, redivision, somewhat semantics, but.
It is a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And same with, I actually looked up our definitions of parcel and lot to see if there was any clarity, but they're also kind of, they reference back and forth to each other, but because I thought, well, oh, we've got a parcel here, but it's not a lot, but it is actually a lot, and they've been paying taxes on it. That's just a lot.
That's correct. No one's getting away with it. Just-
And the 2019 text amendment change makes this completely buildable. And that was a restriction, undoing a previous restriction about frontage on private roads.
So it further names itself.
Yeah, I mean, it predates us, but it's important.
If an applicant came in 2018 seeking approval, the regulations at that time, when for those 2 years that there were discussions, the lot did not meet the zoning regulations. So an application for a subdivision at that point would, in order to approve the division of parcels creating building lots, those lots need to meet the current zoning regulations at the time of application.
Right, and in 1957, it's clear based upon the map that when A with the house on it was divided so that the top half B became its own separate parcel, they both complied. Right, so again, I can't speak to the A to A1 division that took place 9 years later in 1966. But clearly when A and B were separated, those both complied.
I guess my only concern is really around the waiver here, is that if, based on the definition of the subdivision. I mean, if you take the whole parcel and say, okay, if we're starting from the beginning, do we have the total square footage of the total parcel that all of those?
Mother lot.
Whatever it is, it's gonna be a lot more than,
A and B.
and it's gonna be a lot more than just B, right?
Yeah, A and B together, I do have that map. I didn't calculate it, but
Well, C. maybe
Yeah,
the-
it'd be C.
yeah,
Putting that.
we can do that.
The subdivision regulations have you have a waiver section in which is unlike a zoning regulation granting waivers, which is the role of the zoning board of appeals. In the subdivision regulations, the commission can grant waivers of specific sections as they're listed. So there's like 4 or 5 sections. The open space section is one of the areas in which the commission can grant a waiver. The waiver requires a 3/4 vote of your membership. That is, so 3/4 of 9 members. So you would have to, in order to grant a waiver, you would need to have an affirmative 7 votes from the commission to do that.
Yeah.
Did you?
There is still being real.
Well,
Right.
but as Ed was saying, they've been paying taxes all this time. So,
They've also been illegal.
right,
I
right,
mean,
but she was talking about the fee and low.
Yeah.
We do fee and low.
yeah.
The total acreage of, after the free split, because that should be gone, is like 143,800. Of B, A1, A2, and, the Montgomery piece, for lack of a better term. So that's 143,000 square feet.
But none of the properties have any kind of conservation easement because they
None.
were never really subdivided.
No open space was proposed or required for any of them. They weren't done. I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but that's the way it is.
That's the history.
Regardless of, just trying to clarify that in the waiver. I understand 4,400 square feet is not a lot of space and there's really nothing to do there, but if you were to comply with that, what's the downside to the property? I mean, if it's just tucked in a corner somewhere, because otherwise, we're talking about precedent. That's a thing. So that's part of where my question goes to. So, I mean, would that hamper the development of the property significantly such that you couldn't meet the requirement? Or it wouldn't be accessible, but, the definition, as I look at it, it's more of, it's supposed to be for, benefit conservation purposes, whatever. So no one's going to go back there. No one's certainly going to use it as a ball field.
Yeah.
But if you just have to cordon off an area, so to speak, not physically cordon it off, but just mark it off, why not do that? It can just be untouched, almost look at it as wetlands type of thing. You can't do much with it.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be a parcel that you separate out and give to the town or the land trust, right?
No,
So the
no.
only question would be if you wanted to do a conservation easement.
Yeah.
So,
If I'm doing the math right, that would, if we take out the 4,434,
Because you're under 40.
it puts you under 40,000.
yeah.
Yeah.
Still.
Right on.
Just,
I guess typically in an open space set aside, it's based on the total area.
Yeah.
Right.
Of the mother lot, not in the individual proposed lot.
Right.
So that's,
So now you're talking, 14,000.
right, so
Yeah.
we're in, and I can say, as far as a dedicated open space, where there are parcels, oftentimes, applicants would look to donate property to the land trust
Yeah.
or to the town. And I think both parties have gotten a little more particular, because we're realizing of orphaned pieces of open space throughout town that are a maintenance challenge. And so really, open space land dedication is more appropriate where it's contiguous to other open space or, for conservation matters, if you're along the Hammonasset River or things like that, where you're getting these connections. We've seen that a lot. Oftentimes, the recommendation would be the fee in lieu. The commission has the discretion, of course, to review a court in section 311, all of the options. I think one is even a dedication of a different parcel. But the waiver section is the other option. So we have, as a commission, you have seen subdivisions that have accepted land, land trust has entered into agreements with them, and sometimes even the town. In this case, yes, aside from calling off an area that would diminish that particular lot size, it doesn't tend to satisfy the actual 10% of the lot. I also just wanted to highlight, so in that section 14 of the subdivision regulations, that's your general provisions. And that's, like I said, the 3/4 vote of all members, that's regular members, not including the alternates, waiving the provisions of certain sections. And there are two provisions really to take into consideration. One, in the opinion of the commission, conditions exist which affect the subject land and are not generally applicable to other land in the area. And or two, conditions exist where the strict application of the subdivision regulations is either unnecessary or undesirable due to conditions which affect the subject land and are generally not applicable to other land in the area. No waiver shall be granted that would have a significant adverse effect on adjacent property or public health and safety. And the commission shall state upon its record the reasons for which a waiver is granted in such instance. I'm not sure that many of you have had an experience with the waiver, and I didn't write that in my staff report, so I just wanted to at least read it to you tonight so you're familiar.
Other questions? Thank you. If not, then I'd like to open it up to public questions, statements, and be sure to state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Keith Ainford, Madison resident, but I'm also an attorney in New Haven. I represent the adjacent owners, one of the owners of one of these lots in this non-subdivision subdivision. And I'd like to give you a different perspective on some of these issues. First, I want to start out by with the prospect that they're not entitled to what they're asking. This is absolutely not something that you would be depriving them of a property right that they have a right to. They are asking for a subdivision or a re-subdivision of an illegal subdivision that never should have happened. And they're asking for a waiver of the regulations because they can't meet the regulations because they did an illegal subdivision. Anyways, there are consequences to the illegality that occurred so many years ago. And there's a number of points here. You've all been talking about, well, they've been paying taxes on a lot since about 2018. However, they didn't pay taxes on a subdivision for 50, 60 years, 55 years, because it was never registered as a subdivision. So they got away with cutting lots off without having to pay the price that would have come from creating building. So they got away with not paying taxes that they should have paid for. Don't feel bad for them for having paid taxes. Whatever the taxes they paid were lower than what they should have paid. Number two, when they sold the lots that they sold that were illegal, they made a profit on those. So no one should feel bad about that either. Number three, they sold lots that left other people with impacts. other people who now have illegally subdivided. In addition, not only are they asking for a waiver, but they came in and they asked in 2019 for a text change. And let us not engage in this fiction that somehow it was the commission that did this. The commission only did it because the private landowner asked for it, and then the commission initiated the application. It wasn't a private application technically, but it was instigated by the owner. So let's just not pretend the fiction is a fiction or it's the truth. Number three, this open space requirement is 10% of the subdivision, not of the law. So if we're going to legalize this next lot and give this thing to them of value, because they can't sell it as a part of a subdivision, as a subdivision lot, unless they get this approval. But they're only asking for 10% of that lot because they can't ask for the 10% of everybody else's lot because they didn't give that up. And they're putting you in the position of saying, give us a waiver because we're really kind of stuck. Well, wait a minute. Had they done this legally, they would have to have given you 10% of the total area of all of the lots, of all 5 lots. In fact, we're talking about 5 lots, not 4. The 5th one is, let's say, that one that's not buildable, should have been part of the subdivision, should have been open space. Who knows? They may come back and try to get you to make that a half-acre lot somehow, maybe go to ZBA and try to get that approved. So we may not be done yet, but this was done illegally. In addition, the gentleman who did it at the time was a judge, he was a lawyer. I assume he knew better. Maybe he didn't, but certainly was not an unknowledgeable farmer who just kind of stumbled into this. So is there also one of your requirements for giving this waivers that it not have any kind of an impact on the neighbors? Well, if you're putting another house here, you're crowding this area. The other people who bought here bought understanding that this lot was not buildable because it wasn't a lot. Now they're asking you to make it legal. Well, now there's going to be a house here that nobody would have expected when they bought those other lots. So the illegal subdivision didn't come without impact. It certainly benefited the person who got the illegal subdivision. And now they're going to try to get the last lot out of it. But the town didn't get all the taxes it should have. The neighbors didn't get a subdivision that met the regs, that was properly laid out. And in fact, you still don't even have a map of the entire subdivision. Laid out under your regulations with an A2 survey, with the boundaries, the meets and bounds, all of the setbacks, all of the things that you require in a subdivision. They're coming back to you with one lot that meets that. That's this one, the one they're asking for. And that one has all of the lines, but notice they didn't show you the rest of the subdivision. Plus, they're calling it a re-subdivision. A re-subdivision of what? I don't think you can legally call it a re-subdivision because it's not a subdivision of a subdivision. It's an, when we say it's an illegal subdivision, it's not a subdivision at all. It's a bunch of lots that have been cut illegally. So to call this a re-subdivision isn't legal. If you do that, you are actually in violation of your own rights. It's actually a subdivision, and they should be coming to you with a full subdivision and asking for it all. And they, in order to do that, they would need the permission of the neighbors, my clients included. They wouldn't get that. Therefore, they wouldn't be able to do that. Therefore, they wouldn't be able to get this law. The only way they can succeed tonight is by entertaining the fiction that this is a re-subdivision. So this is, it's messy. It's one of those things that we would all like to be able to gloss over because you say, look, somebody made a mistake a long time ago. I don't know if it was a mistake, but, and we'd like to clean that up, but it has an impact. Somebody got away with something. I assume they did it on purpose because they were making a lot of cuts. They were giving away to their family and they're selling them. And unfortunately, now you have people who occupy those lots and you're going to add another house to their neighborhood. And you're going to say, well, you're all stuck with this sort of illegality mess. And we want to give you a waiver of the open space subdivision regs. Waivers are given where, let's say, everything else makes sense and the open space part of it doesn't. I don't know what would have made sense if you had come through and shown all of the lots. Whether you could have cut off a piece and said, hey, here's a little chunk of open space that might have been then as a little mini park in that neighborhood. I mean, this is a tightly knit area that's very heavily developed. Maybe there could be a nice little lot that someone could use as a little walking open space. Maybe they kick a ball around. I don't. But certainly they're not even offering the 4,400 square feet. They want you to say no. You don't have to do it. So that's just a different perspective. And just because this was a division recorded in probate, yes, that means they're lots. That means they're lots. It doesn't mean this is a subdivision. It doesn't mean it should be done. And it doesn't mean it's without impact. Even if they did have this as a whole subdivision and they were going to offer some piece of land, I know I represent the land trust locally. I know they wouldn't take this kind of piece. And I don't think the town would want this either. For the same very reason that it's too small. It's not contiguous to other open space, and it would be a maintenance nightmare because it's surrounded by people who might encroach, and then you'd have all this enforcement that you don't want. So you've got a lot of things here that don't recommend doing this, and there's no good reason to do it unless you want to do these people a favor. And frankly, the neighbors are opposed. Because it adds just one more house that they didn't expect, and it devalues their property, and they paid for what they paid for at the time based on the fact that this thing shouldn't have been built up. Frankly, everybody would have to go back to ZBA and try to get variances to make their properties legal. There's a lot of other really expensive headaches that might still exist, even if you do this tonight. So we ask you to just say no and let them have all of the benefits of what they got over the years. And they live with the negative consequences they created, just like everybody else has to.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jessica Littell. I live at 9 Bushnell Lane. And as Mr. Ainsworth had said, that they're asking for a re-subdivision where living there, it's not even a subdivision. So again, how can it be a re-subdivision? The property has already been divided to excess. And I feel, being a little selfish, if this type of subdivision is approved after the fact, will it set a precedent for other residents in the area to do the same? Oops. I have many concerns with that. And I have a concern with the payment of property on the parcel, payment of taxes. I did not look this up, but I would guesstimate that they did pay taxes on that parcel once the main house was sold and they were holding on to that last parcel. That's probably when the property taxes for that parcel started. I don't know that for sure, but I'm just, he is unaware of when it started either. Hi.
Oh, Lisa.
I'm Lisa Rich. We live at 64 Quarry Lane, by Bushnell.
Excuse me, just our microphone is over
Sorry.
here on top of the
Thank
TV. So if you could stand up and enunciate so that folks
No one
attending
likes to stand
remotely
up.
can.
Nobody wants to be here. Lisa Rich, 64 Quarry Ledge. We're probably the newbies in town. These guys have lived here like 100 years, so they know everything about this property. They were best friends with the judge. They watched them divide the into 5 illegal pieces. This is a family property. Only one got sold. It got sold to the Keelers, who would have been here tonight, but they couldn't make it. They bought the property and later found out after having done some research when they had a problem with their title search, that they had bought a property that had been part of a portion illegally portioned out property. Done for all different various reasons, but definitely well known that they had done it and knew that it had occurred, which is why they came back in 2018 and wanted to start being able to sell it. The Keelers tried to buy this property from them when they found out that their property was illegal, in order to combine them and try to make it a legal subdivision with both properties, and were turned down multiple times and then eventually gave up trying to purchase it. When they ultimately moved, they sold the property. They thought everything was fine, that the properties would remain unbuildable. Cindy, I think their stepmother, still lives on one of the properties, one of the unbuildable, right up against our property. And when I say about 12 feet, the other impacted for us is that they want to build right up I don't know if you can see in one of your drawings, I'll show you where our cottage is.
Or Aaron, could you?
That's been on the property since 1907, which is long before these people subdivided or even had their property. Our property butts up, unfortunately, about 6 feet off the property line because it was here long before anybody else's. If you go back to the
Aaron, could you pull up
original
a map of?
map, you'll see our cottage. The whole property, of course, is built on quarry ledge. There's a reason for the name. They came and took photos about a year ago, asking what kind of damage they were worried about doing. So they took photos of all our houses without an explanation, and our cottages, in order to protect, I guess, in case they did damage during like blasting that would be required in order to build this house. I don't know if you guys have been down Bushnell. I had never been there. 20 years on Linden Lane when we moved here. Jerry had to show me even where the house was. It's a very tiny enclave off of East Wharf, and it butts up against the 6 houses that are on Bushnell, the tiniest of property, the tiniest private lane. So when they say, I want to build a property, they're not building it for themselves. They're building this property to sell it. They're developing it, and then they're going to dump it on the 5 people or 6 people that live in this area, make their money and get out, even though they were offered several $100,000 to just buy the land to tie it back together. They don't have an interest in living there. If you told me that they wanted to buy it and be my neighbors, I could maybe even get behind that. But that's not. It's development, just like the ledges was. There's no interest in retaining any kind of decency to the areas that were built. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I live in a house built in 1907 and I like the idea of some tradition. And I'm a modernist in nature, but if it made sense, but just putting another house on the property just to sell it, make money and get out, that seems like a different story, especially because what they're asking for is to take 5 illegal parcels, and they're not lots. They're considered parcels, right? My husband's a licensed architect. He explained things to me. It's a parcel. It's not a lot. And my guess is they started paying the taxes fully when they realized that they wanted to develop it and sell it so that they would garner people's sympathies of, hey, I've been paying these taxes on it. Because then that way you'd be like, but they didn't pay taxes on it. But the reality is they weren't before, not before they wanted to develop. And
Yes, map 908.
map 908. I'm not as smart as some of the people here, but what I have done is watch how they have manipulated.
Just a Bushnell Lane even, just so we can see.
Impact our particular house as much, because we're up that house on the hill, the farmer's house. But I can see how it would impact everyone, including our cottage. It would, they're like 20 yards from these guys' houses, and Jason and Tracy, who I just met, they're like on top of it. They share a driveway, and they would box Cindy Williams, the original owner's daughter-in-law. In the illegal one, she'd be sandwiched in like this. It's a tiny
Is there a
place.
reason why you don't want to pull up the map?
No, I'm, are you looking for map
What map?
908 or
So we can
or
see.
the tax map?
See the impact of.
His map, he's here, he's got it right in his
The
hand.
donut map.
The Bob, okay, well, that, I had,
But the reality is, if you
The maps
plan long
from-
enough,
Google Earth is fine.
you can figure out the way.
Yeah, the assessor map might be.
I think the assessor map, you're looking to see where this,
Why we use the language
where this
that-
property is.
And other properties that are being raised here tonight, that would be great.
Okay.
But the reality is, this was 5 illegal subcuts manipulated to try to get their best bang for the money. The mother-in-law still lives there. I know Cindy, she's here, but she's in her 80s and doesn't walk well, and it's night, she doesn't drive. She doesn't want this to happen. But she's lucky, as she says, to still be living in the house until she's only been willed until she dies. The dilemma in this is that they're trying to build upon something that should never have been built upon because they illegally cut to 5 pieces.
Okay, I think we've
Got my gist? So what I was gonna say is, if you can see where the kind of weird circle looks, I don't know what it,
There was another drawing that showed. Cottage on
it will show our, well, our cottage is right actually here,
Yeah, if you can point it out.
right here.
But that's part of you have a home also.
There's a home right here.
Live in the cottage.
Well, but it's, it's a
I'm
lit,
just trying to
yeah.
clarify.
It's right here on top of the property, and where, will you show where they want to build their house? Because I think that got missed in this. There was a part where he shows where he's gonna build the house.
Right there, right to the left.
So this application though is not for the house itself and the building. It's for the subdivision.
It's the subdivision, and
To allow a future. If they.
Exactly. But if you showed where he wanted to build, you want to see the impact on it,
Going map.
on the double map? Whatever, it's.
Oh.
Because you asked what the impact was on the neighbors. It's a tiny, tiny block. So his proposed house is here. I'm not sure why they would call it a shed, but literally up on our land. I don't even know what the linear feet are between the homes, but it's pretty substantial. I mean, we have a small stone wall there. It's literally on top of it. So it does impact it. And we bought a property thinking this was an illegal lot and shouldn't be built upon. There's only one property, one house, the Keelers, and Jason and Tracy's, that one house is the only one that legally is now divided where people are living in it and can be sold.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, hi, Christina Camargella here, 46 Hamilton Drive. So we are the property that was the initial property that was subdivided. So we talked a lot about taxes, and I just want to add some thoughts to that process, which is, I do understand that the petitioner has paid taxes in this property as a buildable lot since 2017, but I don't believe that should justify a bypassing of our zoning regulations. Just like any other property owner in this town, they had the opportunity to grieve those taxes as a non-buildable lot, and they did not take advantage of that opportunity. In addition, we received no notice of this. I learned about the public hearing by walking the path through Bushnell Lane and seeing the sign. Last week, I noticed the sign had been removed, which I find deeply troubling. Our zoning regulations require it to be posted until this evening for this public hearing. It leads me to believe that the points about this being a manipulative process, or there's merit to that. I would like to know why that sign was removed and why they're not required to be in compliance with public notice. And finally, the point about it building to requesting an open space requirement, this property was listed on the MLS before this proceeding. So this property was listed with buildable plans and square footage that was suggested. The only reason that this is before this committee is because your neighbor issued it. They were planning to continue with the illegal subdivision. So I take issue with all of those things, and I hope the commission will hear them.
It was listed over a year ago. Yeah, it was listed. I called.
Oh, you said you.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, I said, I don't think this is a buildable lot. They're like, and that was the end of it. The rendering, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like 3,200 square feet. Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments?
There's one online. Thank you, Chair. If you could Please unmute and identify yourself for the record.
Hi, Jason and Carolyn Camisar. We're the owners of 30 Bushnell. Did you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. When we bought the 30 Bushnell in June of 2024, we were also we also knew that these were all legal lots. So
We knew that that lot was illegal.
we knew that that was an illegal lot here. When we purchased in 2024, and I didn't quite catch her name, but the woman from 46 Hamilton who just spoke, the property has been listed for, I believe you can check the MLS, but it's been listed for well over a year. So what does that say? That they've listed a lot on for sale, but they isn't even they can't sell it unless it's approved. So I think that gives you an idea of what's going on.
Thank you.
Okay.
So if I could, hi, my name's Eric Rich. I live 64 Quarry Ledge. And I also want to state that when we saw that listing come online, all of us neighbors got together and talked about it. And we went with the prior owners before Jason and Tracy owned the house. And we did a review of their title search, and it showed all the illegality that occurred involving of the property. We brought these issues to zoning, and we were rebuffed over and over and over again. So until we consulted with legal counsel, it was the only way we actually had any access to this experience of being with you here at zoning. And I want to say that it's troubling to me that as citizens of this town who not only love the town, but we pay our taxes, vote, care deeply about what happens here, that the planning of the town would seem to think that we were lesser because we didn't want to develop something than if we basically they were on the wrong side of things as citizens, and that we needed to be lawyered up in order to have access to this forum to discuss our concerns about the property. So I want to make sure that that's well understood in this as well, and that this was not an easy road for us to be here. We actually had to overcome quite a bit of challenges to make this happen.
Be invited.
To be invited to this, yes. So I just wanted to,
We've seen your letters requesting public hearing.
we appreciate that, but that recent letter for the public hearing is a really recent thing. I don't know if you've seen all of the other letters that came prior to this that went to zoning. That when we were told, no, there's no there, there's nothing to do, it's buildable, forget it. And we said, oh, no, au contraire. We don't do that. So that's all I just want to say. Thank you.
Who did you talk to in zoning?
We sent letters to planner. We sent letters and we spoke with eventually spoke so sorry, I thought it's written down somewhere, but I don't have it.
Not really people.
I guess it was.
Worrying people up.
So we were told there's no there, that we don't have anything that lakes in.
So if there are no further questions, I'd like to have the applicant respond to issues that have been raised.
Thank you. I was hired in May of 2025 by a purchaser, and that's primarily who I'm representing in this. And I didn't get the answer that it wasn't buildable. I got the answer you have to do all this work and end up here. So that's why we're here. So it took a long time to frankly figure out the title. That's complex, to figure out the procedural history of what's happened, and then to do all the work, the Bob Doan work necessary to even open the door. So I first contacted Erin this summer, and we talked about this, and she said there's a lot of problems that need to be resolved. Here's all the stuff. So I'm not sure what other people were hearing, but that's the answer I got, and that's what led us to this application. And we made the application with the town because this needed a solution. If it could have been purchased, if I could have told the person who wants to build their house here, no, you can do this, we would have done that and we would have closed and been done by when Bob Doan finished his plans. But we had to go we knew this whole process in the summer, we knew this whole process was needed. I can't tell you what happened before May of 2025 with the listing, but they put it out there and it was always subject to getting approval to build a house. And this is one of the steps that's part of that. The fifth lot is the Hamilton, and this is only 4 lots. This is max 4 lots. I just want to make that point. Because the fifth lot was a free split. When you do a free split, no subdivision regs required, no open space or anything like that. Yes, I think what we're asking you to look at is, does this make sense? It is a 1 acre piece of property in a 1 acre zone that a house is able to meet all the setbacks. The proposed house shown on the plan, which again, from your perspective is concept only, is 33 feet off the property line and it meets the 30-foot setback. So that complies and shouldn't be a reason not to approve the lot. When you look at the lots in the area and you ask the question as to whether this building a single family house on this one lot will lead to crowding, on Bushnell Lane, which is the only connection, there's no connection, vehicular connection from Hamilton Drive. You have a 0.97 acre, a 6.85 acre, a 6.10 acre. On the other side, I think it's Quarry Ledge or something, 1.7 acre and a 4 acre. Those are the size of the parcels that surround this little cluster. And in the little cluster, you have a 1 acre, our property. Cindy Williams is 0.98 acres. Attorney Ainsworth's clients, 1.7 acres. This, if we were talking about down here in Hamilton Drive, where all these properties are, which is probably a different zone, but that I could maybe see a little bit of crowding, but this isn't a situation where there's crowding. And all it is it's always been woods and we want to keep it woods. That's what they're asking for. And the property owner's saying, okay, no, I've taken all these steps. I'm willing to do all this work, pay taxes, which again is secondary, but it's still a factor. And we're asking for permission to make this a building lot. That's why we're here. That's why we're here today. I don't know about the sign being removed. We didn't remove the sign. We installed the sign. I think it was on the day before Christmas or something. It was bad timing that when that sign was required to be installed, but it got done. Then
I saw the sign today. I think I saw the sign today,
I
so
went tonight on my way to this meeting. It's
it
not
may have
there.
been flattened down.
Maybe, but it does, there's very specific requirements about the signage and it's currently not meeting them. I checked tonight on my way to this meeting.
And the only thing I'm going to say about open space is, if we're asking for a waiver of open space because we think it makes sense, right? Because this is a 1 acre piece that was divided in 1957. If we can't have the ability to include any property on A and A1 because we don't own those and they won't consent to it, as they said. So, these are unique circumstances to this situation just based upon the title history alone. So it qualifies. If I were on the commission, I'd say, okay, when A and A1 come to subdivide, we shouldn't require open space from them either. Like this is all in the past, and all you're doing is just approving it and allowing it to go forward. So, that's my perspective on open space. If the commission wants to engage in more of a dialogue with that, I'd certainly listen, talk to my clients. But we're hoping that the waiver would be granted. So thank you.
You let me ask a follow-up question? I'm sorry, as I understand now, this is a attorney that's here on behalf of prospective purchaser. Is there anyone here on behalf of the owner of the property?
Yeah, she's consented to the application, so I'm working for her.
Any other questions from the commission?
Yes, Attorney Ainsworth, I'm not an economist. You mentioned that
that the value of the property of the folks in the vicinity would be devalued if there were to be a house built on this property. Is there any evidence for that? That when the houses are built, it reduces the value? And make sure we're not talking about a McDonald's there or something.
Sure. It's not from the use, it's actually from the removal of the non-use. There's an open lot next to you. Your house is worth more than if it's a lot with a house next to it. That's just common sense. I mean, if I knew there was an open lot next to me that couldn't be built on, I would pay more for that lot than a house down the street that has a house on either side. In fact, I have that in my neighborhood. My house sits on a lot that looks across the street with an open lot that was cut off at a time when the zoning would have allowed it to be built whenever it was. So now it's not buildable. And I now have a lot that I look at that's full of trees. That is more valuable to me than looking at somebody else's house.
But that's subjective. I can make an argument that building a $2 million house on a legal lot would drive up the value of the other homes around there if and when they decided to sell. And not have to go through those processes.
Ask the attorney, the applicant to reply.
Evaluation question? Yeah, I don't think there's any evidence that putting a house on a 1 acre piece of land in a 1 acre zone is going to devalue properties around it. I don't disagree that when you have a house next to property that's clearly conservation area, right? I think that is something that could, benefit a property. But that's not what we have here.
Can I just make a counterpoint to that? So the undeveloped piece of land on the other side of that property, are we not allowed to have follow-up remarks? The undeveloped land on the other side of that property was part of our appraisal as our mortgage approval process, and that land was determined by the town as undevelopable, which did actually impact our appraisal positively. So to the point about whether or not having an open lot next to you impacts the value of your property, it certainly does in our case, which is on the other side of this exact property.
I think that we'll just let that go then. We've heard different positions about whether the property value will go up or down. So this project. Any other questions from commissioners?
Commission has the opportunity to either close the public hearing tonight or hold the public hearing open if you're looking for additional information from the applicant or staff or whatever information you're looking for regarding. That's a decision you should make.
Yeah, I think that it's not a clear application. I wish it were. And
It's not straight.
because of that, I would appreciate time to review it and think about it.
I'm back on the 5th anyway, so.
And so I'd like to propose that we continue the public hearing. If we not close it tonight, we keep it open.
Oh, sure.
It makes sense, yeah.
Do you have any specific questions or requests for the applicant before you do that? My request, if you have it, or if you just want to cut it, come back and got to. But if somebody has a question or wants to ask for something, now's the time.
Before we move on, I would like to add one comment. I did go to the minutes of the May 16th, 2019 meeting. And saw that the vote to do the text amendment to allow this to be a buildable property, basically, was a unanimous vote. And the minutes didn't show any opposition at that time. And it was a public hearing.
Nobody knew that meeting had happened. We weren't actually living in the.
I'm just stating what I saw when I was doing my homework for today's.
We weren't given notice. If we had known that a meeting was occurring, we certainly would have been present.
And as living there for 40 some odd years, we didn't receive any notice of that.
So we might go back and look at the records a little bit more about that.
Madam Chair, for a text amendment, that applies to the general standards of the zoning regulations. There is no individual notification of property owners. It's not an application specific to a particular property. So the notification process is legal notice.
Right, so erosion of regulations is something that should be really considered here as well. It's a slippery slope. It seems that there've been a many years long attempt to identify those people who are they've been working.
Yeah, could you identify
My name's
yourself?
Eric Rich, 64
Okay.
Boyd Ledge. And this is kind of, coming up with the first rung on the ladder to get the next and the next and the next, and working their way towards having this seem like it's just such an obvious choice to make.
Paying your taxes all of a sudden.
Well,
Just to say you want
I'd like to close.
I
I feel like it's from the public right now to say that we'd like to continue it. We'd like to think about it a little bit. This is a unique situation. And how we interpret what we've learned tonight, I think needs a little time.
Well, I agree with you. Be interested to go back, look a little more closely, those minutes and those meetings. But do you want more input next time around, or you just want more time for us to look at the official record, think about it, and then come back and deliberate?
It's a good question. How does everyone feel? I mean, I feel like I just need to absorb and go back and look and even go back and review all our regulations.
Yeah.
I think that's procedural. I don't know if it versus hearing more, because then you put a burden on everybody to pay more legal fees.
Right.
The lawyers to
Right.
speak more. I don't think I need to hear more from them, but you're right, thinking about it. Be valuable.
That's
I have some procedural questions that doesn't require nothing.
Okay.
So can I have a motion that we continue the public hearing to, is it February 5th?
Our next meeting is February 5th.
Right, motion said that's
February 5th. Any further discussion?
Well, I guess my question I thought, so our continuation will just be our discussion.
Yes.
What we're saying is the public portion is concluded. I mean, the public input.
I think you're saying two different things.
I think, Don, I'd like to keep it open so that if we do have questions, we can ask them, keep it going before we move right to deliberations.
That's what I was thinking.
But do you want to hear the presentations to make sure the lawyers will go back and prepare to come back with another round? Is that what you want?
I can't say right,
Okay.
so we had a chance to go over it
That's
ourselves.
fine.
Fair?
Fair enough.
Yeah. We'll keep it open. All in favor to keep the public hearing open?
Terry, did you get the motions?
To continue.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, did we get a second?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, so next on the agenda, we have listed 25-30. Goes to site plan for 142 Boston Post Road, and this is a public hearing that we have already continued to February 5th. Pending application.
I'm going to close the door for you just so it's a little quieter.
Yep.
Let's go right here.
Okay. Next, we have 25-26, 196 Durham Road, map 58, lot 14, zone RU2. This is owner applicant Temple Tikva. Site plan modification application to change site lighting, landscaping, and parking driveway area material from originally approved plan, and they've made a request that we table this to the February 9th
Yes.
meeting.
Yes, the temple has requested some additional time.
So can I have a motion for that? Mike? Okay. Very good. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you.
Yeah, just so know, I so from that, it was a member of the test.
Oh, thanks, okay. That's so we've had a vote to win now.
February 19th.
Just want to abstain from that vote or
Yeah, I should.
okay.
I'm a member. They do. So
Do you feel that that would impede?
no, but I just to. Wait for the. That's not.
I thought she was.
That's, okay, so next we have pending application of 25-27, 875 Boston Post Road, map 39, lot 18, units 1 and 2, zone D, that's downtown village district. Owners, applicants Janet Peckinpah and Alexander Gerson and Alan Nay Key. This is for a major alteration request for installation of a privacy gate / fence, landscaping and fence replacement. Janet,
I am recusing myself. Janet. 875 Boston Post Road.
one of the applicants.
Because it's you, okay?
I'm Patrick Gable, 67 West Main Street in Clinton. I'm here representing the condo owners at 875 Boston Post Road as their architectural designer. So basically, the lot itself had an existing picket fence on it. And one of the current condo owners did a new fence that wasn't properly permitted and got caught in the act. And we're here to show you guys a new design which coheres with the downtown district, as well as cohering with architecture of the site and fences that are currently on the site.
Yeah, Mr. Previous fence was not permitted either.
Yes, so the previous existing fence was also not permitted at the time of
previous
its renovation. So two previous non-permits.
Correct. And Patrick, I just wanted to add also, it shared with Janet, hopefully she had sent that over to the rest of the owners' staff report. That does include a photo of the original fence for the building that was installed roughly 2019. The original approvals from the commission to convert the building to 3 units was in 2015. And according to the developer, we installed the fence, I believe roughly in the summer of 2019 without village district approvals, and nothing ever came of that. And I think everybody just kind of got used to the picket fence in front of the house.
And there was no fence in the original.
No, the original approval did not include a fence. I'm happy to bring up that rendering if it's helpful of the existing, but basically in the downtown village district, fencing and landscaping are considered major alterations.
Yeah.
So you have 2 types of permit reviews in the village district. You have minor modifications and major alterations. And those are listed specifically in section 30, I believe it is, the downtown village district. And so the applicants did submit an application and visit with ACA twice and met with staff trying to make sure that they are, proposing elements that are consistent with the design standards. The guidelines discourage chain link fencing, stockade fencing, things of that nature. This particular fence was proposed horizontally as opposed to vertical pickets that were existing before. In conversation with ACA, I believe they initially wanted the applicant to go back to vertical, recommend vertical panels, pickets instead. And then the applicant came back with a design from Patrick here. I can screen share that and then maybe Patrick, you want to highlight those comments that sort of evolved into this latest revision?
Yes, so the current fence that is on site that wasn't permitted is a horizontal fence, and it seems to not have any vertical elements, meaning that the boards are in front of the columns, basically, the posts. Exactly. So this this modification puts posts, covers on the current posts. It sets the horizontal members midway through each post. We've also added details of a railing, a rail, as well as a rail below that's about 4 inches off the ground, as well as some bisecting members on each panel of fence. And we did this because on the property, there's fencing that continues around the whole property. It is high fencing, but it has horizontality to it. So we wanted it to cohere with the site, as well as being, having a traditional aesthetic, maybe an updated traditional aesthetic, so that it also adheres to.
All right, so this does not exist today.
Correct.
And you are going to tear down what's there now and reuse what you can?
So it was recommended to us, basically to keep the posts as they are. And what they're going to do is remove the horizontal members.
I see.
And it was recommended to us to replace, right now they're pressure treated. And it was recommended to use red cedar or white cedar to replace it. So
ACA recommended it.
yes, exactly.
All right, so you'll keep the posts and the post caps that are there now.
And the
So-
posts will be clad also with.
Right.
I'm sorry, Pete Montbach, 875 Boston Post Road. And I am not listed on the application, but I'm one of the 3 condo owners in that building.
So basically the posts will get sleeves, because right now they're 4x4 posts. Well, 6x6.
Sleeves.
Right, with caps, and the whole fence is going to be painted to match the exterior of the home.
Okay.
As the previous illegal one was.
Correct.
Yes. And Patrick, can
Yes.
you speak to the gate?
Yes, so currently there is also a gate erected that's about 5 feet tall, that's inset behind this fence. And
You can see
You
it
can
here.
see that in your
right, it's on
photo.
the site plan. That's also in this application. Maybe we scroll down to the site plan so we can see it.
Oh,
Or up,
okay,
sorry.
yes.
Right, so right here, there's a current gate, it's about 5 feet tall. We were recommended to cut that down to 3 feet tall. And that's for privacy for this existing patio and one of the condo owners, because it is on a main road.
I see.
We also are asking for the approval of some vegetation, which currently are arborvitaes, to create some privacy.
Does it require to be lowered from 5 feet to 3 feet?
The recommendation in the design standards is 36 inches.
Right.
So ACA, based on those guidelines, requested that, or recommended that gate as installed be reduced in height. The other thing I want to just bring, do you want to ask the design question first?
Yeah, you said the arborvitae's will be replaced. You didn't say that, but I guess I read the arborvitae's will be replaced.
So the arborvitaes are currently there.
Right.
Right.
And it will be.
The goal is to make it more dense, basically, with arborvitaes. But they're currently living, so I think
Okay.
it's just adding
I'm sorry, I missed.
additional.
There,
So we also originally asked that there would be a fence that continued from here to here for more privacy with the arborvitae in front of it, but we are recommended to take that off of the plan, which we have.
Which you have.
and allow for just the vegetation to be the screen. One aspect that I did not mention, when I was talking about the major alterations in the DVD require a public hearing. But the commission does have discretion, in determining, whether or not that public hearing is necessary. And so I did include that in your, staff report, that the public hearing can be waived upon a finding that the proposed alteration will have minimal impact on the public view. Or in the case, if the property is located in a historic district and they're going through the public hearing process already for a certificate of appropriateness. That's not the case here. This property is only located in the village district.
It's a historic property, but it's in the
Correct. It's not in the historic district. So the
Commission
commission,
district.
so the commission is required to hold a public hearing on this or make a finding that based on the proposal, it is minimal impact.
Thank you for that presentation. I think the fence you're proposing looks great.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
It's arborvitae's or arborvitae shrubs?
Arborvitae's trees, which will be capped at a certain height so that it just, I think we said 5 feet around 5 or 6 feet capped so that they only grow to that height and they grow horizontally out.
Did I have any other recommendations for different types of?
Yeah, there was a recommendation.
The name of it.
John?
Yeah, with a T, that's up to.
Okay.
What do we do?
And there is also. Can I talk about?
Yes.
So there was, ACA also, John Cunningham suggested that there were 2 other types of that. Basically, this is Alan Key, that's his patio area. And that he might want to use instead of, or in addition to the arborvitae. So we have a flowering tree there that we'd like to preserve if possible. And I think he was going to get together with Alan to show him his ideas. He did the original plantings on that property, John Cunningham did.
Yeah.
So he's very familiar with what's there.
Any other questions, comments?
Do we have to decide on whether this has to go to a public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have options. Yes, you
Yeah.
can decide on the public hearing today. You could decide if you choose to waive the public hearing. I have provided draft resolutions for you as well for consideration.
You know, I think if we had a huge public outcry about this, we might consider a public hearing so everybody could be heard, but looks like we don't have that.
That was staff's outcry when we drove by and saw what's installed now. I think.
Perfectly
understandable.
It was the sound of, you know, what the, how did that get there?
Well, the neighbors are intimidated clearly, by what's going on there and your reputation.
So this, just so you know, there was no public there's no notification of abutters because this is not a public hearing.
Right.
So that's,
No, I understand.
that could be why you don't hear from anyone. I think we've received in the office over the last month and a half since this was installed, one comment on that. I know 3 members of my staff drove by and noticed, which is why we reached out to the property owner. I honestly assumed that the fencing was the original fencing was part of the approval and happened to be in a meeting with Bill Plunkett on another property and asked him when I had gone back in Google Earth looking at street views and after noticing that the fence was not on the approved set of plans. And he said, yeah, someone suggested it and I used some scrap wood. And which is why he said it likely rotted by now from 2019 and needed to be replaced. But it was an idea that he had liked and I think everybody must have liked it at the time or didn't really pay too much attention. It just never really, it was never brought up as an enforcement issue. It was never brought up as a request for application.
Even though we call it a major alteration.
Yes, at that time. And so at this point, we did feel it was appropriate to come back, especially since it was a change and now kind of formalize that approval process with the property owners.
Right.
Legalize it.
We
thought it was
I think that, they're part of the public and I think there was definitely public input there. So I would be fine. Yeah.
Not having a public hearing and we can go ahead and vote on it.
This needs there.
I agree.
You don't want people there.
John, is he okay with that?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. And Michelle, yes. Okay, good. See me looking at the camera. In that case, could I have a motion?
So do you need 2 motions here? Or is
Yeah.
it-
I can pull up the paper if it's easier to read. There are 2 motions in the draft resolution, well, two findings, the first paragraph and the second paragraph. The first is regarding the public hearing and the second is regarding the specific application.
I'll make a motion on the public hearing.
No second.
I'll make the motion for the second.
Do you want to?
Yep. Voted that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission waive the public hearing for application 25-27, 875 Boston Post Road, map 39, lot 18, units 1 and 2, zone D. Owners applicants Janet Peckerpaugh and Alexander Gerson and Alan Nee Key, Downtown Village District major alteration to request installation of privacy gate, fence, landscaping, and fence replacement as a revised plans entitled 875 Boston Post Road, sheets A101 and A200, prepared by Gable Design Studio, dated 1/14/26, demonstrate landscaping and fence replacement that will have minimal impact on the public view. Okay, be it further voted that application 25-27, 875 Boston Post Road, map 39, lot 18, units 1 and 2, zone D. Owners applicants Janet Peckerpaugh and Alexander Gerson and Alan Nee Key, Downtown Village District major alteration to request installation of privacy gate, fence, landscaping, and fence replacement be approved as shown on revised plans entitled 875 Boston Post Road, sheets A101 and A200, prepared by Gable Design Studios, dated 1/14/26, based on the following finding. The fencing and landscaping are designed in harmony with the Downtown Village District guidelines and noted characteristics of the subsection Post Road East. The fence is residential in character and the screening shrubs are appropriate to provide some privacy for Unit 2's outdoor patio space. The applicant shall install proposed improvements in accordance with the revised plans submitted by Gable Design Studios. The effective date of this approval shall be January 29th, 2026.
Thank you, John. Can I have a second? Bob O'Connor, any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous and Janet's recused herself. Okay, we're all set.
I have a quick question. We need to be, I'm understanding correctly, you're approving this or will in the very near future. Do we need to circle back with you at any time after completion of the construction to verify that we've conformed with with plans that we see?
Sure. The effective date is pushed out 2 weeks because that is when the legal notice will run. There is a 15-day appeal period from that public notice for aggrieved, potential aggrieved parties to take appeal with Superior Court, or of course the applicant if you were going to take appeal with Superior Court. After that, work during that period is at your own risk. And then after that, when the work is completed, I would recommend coordinating with our zoning enforcement officer, Maria Patola, for final compliance inspection, just to be able to note in the file that it was installed according to the approved plans.
It's legal.
Or she'll find you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the approval of minutes for January 8th, 2026. Secretary John.
Thank you. My first official approval of minutes. We are looking to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held January 8th, 2026. Members present, Carol Snow, Chair, John Duza, Andy Rubin, Mike Boca, Max Caroon, Bob O'Connor, Janet Peckinpah, and John Morgan. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Second. Is there any discussion?
It's good.
I do have a slight revision I'd like to suggest. I'd like to revise the line that states John Morgan nominates self as secretary.
So vain.
To John Morgan volunteered to fill the secretary vacancy resulting from the current secretary moving to vice chair.
That's totally fine with me.
Thank
I
you.
think that's acceptable.
It kind of caught my eye as well, like,
So that's egotistical.
Yeah.
Vote to approve? All right, unanimous?
with that change.
With pleasure.
Thank you.
Great, okay, remarks, I have nothing really further to add to tonight's meeting. I feel like we're getting really unusual applications that are challenging in the least, because there's like nothing to kind of hang our hats on so far.
Yeah.
Welcome to the new year.
Yeah, so happy New Year.
Now.
I have a question about this. I do have a question though.
Is it about a specific application?
Yeah.
Then it should occur during discussion of the application.
Yeah.
What about follow-up for applications that? A follow-up that we have been asking for from a previous application. So can I ask a question on that?
Of the status of,
Yeah.
Like updates on
project?
projects.
Well,
It's not a pending application?
no, it
Okay,
was approved.
okay.
Um,
What application?
but it seems to have stalled. The Ammonacid, I forget.
The medical center thing at the end of 450.
No, not that one. The one in the Cohen's parking lot, Madison.
marketplace.
Yes.
Yes.
My understanding is that the applicants are still going through approvals with the state traffic authority.
Oh, so
I mean, good
they
thing still
supposed to have cleaned up?
Because they took everything down on them.
There have been cleaning, the pipes removed.
The pipe was removed. The silt fence is still.
The silt fence needs to stay.
The silt fence will stay up.
Yes, the
Okay.
silt fence, because there was a clearing, will stay as erosion controls. The portable toilets, construction trailer,
Oh, yeah,
and
that was
the
gone.
materials have been removed from the site.
All right.
Until they go forward with building permits.
Thank you.
Building permits cannot be issued until after state traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Aaron, what happened to the lot that was across from the general? So it was the cafe that was there.
Elizabeth's like.
Oh, Elizabeth, the property is for sale.
Yeah, it's still for sale.
Oh, yeah.
Still for sale.
We had a place with something to build some.
Right, but
The last approval for, the commission had a couple of approvals. The current approval was for,
physical.
it was an office for
Yeah.
physical
Physical
therapy.
training, physical therapy or something. Yeah.
So if somebody were looking to purchase that property or come back and change the use, that would have to come back before you.
Right, but Scotland didn't. So the $2.5 million house on Scotland that's in front of the ball field,
It was an 830.
it was an 830G, and now it's a $2.5 million house, single family home.
That white cake that was built?
The 830G application that was an appeal was withdrawn. And
Because we
the
approved it,
property owner sold the property.
but did they
to
have
a
to sell the
developer.
property? Didn't they have to do the same thing that we approved?
No,
So they didn't have to return?
no, a
No, it's just a
single
regular-
family house is in the lab.
Just a regular.
There's multiple houses there. There were.
Yeah.
Correct.
Multifamily.
Correct.
Wow.
I'm blown away at that house. It's beautiful. And he's a fabulous builder. And I'll tell you, every house he's built in Essex, he's gotten his prices for. It takes a long time to sell, but $2.5 million on Scotland.
Get a nice view of the field.
Of the field and the railroad tracks right across the street.
This is the one that's behind Bradley Wall.
No.
Further around Scotland.
Oh, further down.
So East Wharf becomes Scotland.
It's next to the
Oh,
JC
okay.
It's down by the JC Field.
Okay.
It's almost right on the corner of Scotland County's Road.
Yeah, you can see it from.
Any other
Interesting.
Sorry.
Just
questions?
I do.
We approve these things and then they just become something.
Just along those same lines, I think the medical buildings.
Like, I was interested in. That he represented the buyer. On this property, because I thought it was so.
All right, I think Andy has.
Yes.
Oh, I have a question.
I'm sure, just more of a procedural thing. That property at the end of, at Horse Pond, 450, the medical building that was approved.
On New Road.
On New
Yes,
Road, on New
on the
Road.
south side.
I don't know, I mean, they clear cut a
Yes.
while ago, put up a bunch of, fencing.
blue
And, yeah, and now it's just sitting there. My understanding is they can't find a tenant. That's a rumor. So, but what happens my question is, what happens to something like that where they went in, we got approved, they can't find, they may not, who knows if they ever build anything, but they cleared all the trees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, so if they end up not building something, then someone's stuck with that. Maybe that's not what they wanted to do. I don't know if there's any way to change that such that unless, do they have to get further down the road, I guess? And do we have to see that they have someone under contract before they could go? I don't know, probably not control over that, but now it looks shitty, frankly. And it's just sitting there.
There are valid permits for the property.
For the owners that have it now.
Yeah.
It's the same property
But if they
owner.
sold it, the rules change. So-
Says a medical building's going up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that-
That's what the commission approved. This was a PDD, a floating zone with a master plan. That master plan
right.
approval still exists
Right.
on that property, and that is the approved use. It's my understanding that's still the intention of the property owner to develop. I do think that the original tenant had fallen through, but I don't know specifics of any negotiations
It's more of
now.
Yeah, and it's more of a thing, if I understand that, but it's almost like, is there a way to prevent that? Because it's like, you don't want to see, I personally, I think maybe it's just me, I don't want to see them cut all that land, all the trees, all that stuff, and clear it if, something's not maybe further down the pike, for lack of a better term. And I know they're going to say it's out of our control. Someone signed and now they backed out, or did they ever? You just don't know. And I just don't know if we can exert that much control.
Your current regulations do not regulate that.
Yeah.
That's something that if the commission wanted to look at options to explore that, and timing of clearing versus construction, we should look at that as part of our
That's where I'm headed.
zoning regulation, updated what options exist
Are
for
there
regulations.
To prevent that from happening.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
against it. I was just.
That's how we should
Yeah.
look at that.
I just think there's the possibility of getting duped,
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, on that note, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Good looking, guys.
John Morgan, second. Teresa, all in favor of adjournment? 8:43.
Congratulations.